With my hands tied behind my back, I maneuvered and was able to hit the release to the seatbelt. And then I leaned and used my hands to open the door and push with my body weight and push myself out of the car.
What do you do when you're able to open up the door?
I started running away from the store towards the main road and screaming, "Help me, he's going to kill me."
This is Alisa Mathewson, standing before the courtroom, recounting a story that defies the odds. A story of survival that begins in the shadow of unimaginable violence and unspeakable evil. It's a story that begins like so many others. A family, a marriage, a life together. But it ends in darkness, betrayal, and unimaginable terror. No one could have imagined that when Alisa married Trevor Summers in 2001, the life they built together would one day unravel into a living nightmare. Alisa's and Trevor's marriage was falling apart, and in 2016, Alisa makes a choice she hopes will bring peace to her and her children. She asks for a divorce from Trevor. These self-recorded videos by Trevor Summers are a testament to the manipulation and deceit that have defined his actions throughout his marriage. The horrific incident begins on March 11th, 2017.
Today is Saturday, March 11th, and I am here with Alisa at her house. I'm not supposed to be. I did tie her up to keep her from contacting authorities and give me enough time to get out of town. She's agreed to give me some time to say bye to the kids and leave, so I am planning on that, as well as leaving her everything that I have. But the only other thing I'll say is that up until the point I found out about all the dating stuff, I was feeling pretty normal. And when I asked about it, I kept getting different stories. So it's just something I couldn't deal with. My mind literally just broke, and I snapped, and it's just something I can't deal with. So I am sorry for getting aggressive with her today. She's virtually unharmed. She's got a couple bruises today, but from the tying her up.
Trevor has a specific message for his 5 kids.
I need to give you guys some information, and I want you to make sure you understand this. I spent a lot of time with Mom the last few hours, and the things that she's told you about me being good at manipulation and control and lying is true. And tying her up today and all that is true. I don't know what's really broken in my head with all this stuff, but I need to go away and sort it out.
Even after filing for divorce, Alisa can't avoid Trevor. Twice a week, she is forced to see him during custody exchanges for their 5 children. A necessary arrangement, but one that keeps her tethered to the man she is trying to escape. During one incident in early 2017, a haunting preview of events to come, Alisa goes to Trevor's house to sign the final divorce papers, hoping to finally sever ties. But Trevor has other plans. He tells her he needs to talk. There are things she needs to know. At this point, Trevor's world is unraveling. Facing prison time after pleading guilty to wire fraud charges from a failed business venture, he's desperate, cornered, and dangerous. As she tries to leave, Trevor's desperation boils over into violence. He pulls out a weapon, not just a knife, but a machete, forcing her to stay.
The door of the closet faces the master bed, and he turned into the closet and turned back and pushed me down onto the bed and pulled a knife out from between the mattress and the box spring, and he held a machete at my chest.
What happened at that point?
He opened the end table, and there was rope and duct tape, and he told me if I cooperated, he would not tie me up, and he would not use the rope or the duct tape.
And what did he mean by cooperate? Did you know at that point?
He told me that he was not okay with the divorce, that what I had done and destroyed the family, that he was not going to take this, and that I was going to stay and listen to him.
After an agonizing standoff, Trevor seems to regain control. He lets Alisa leave, but only after forcing her to promise not to call the police. But Alisa does just that. Alisa calls 911, recounting the harrowing encounter. But without any bruising or marks to prove her story, police doubt her story. Despite the obvious danger, her pleas for protection go unanswered. This failure would prove devastating. Trevor's manipulation didn't end there. In the days that followed, both filed restraining orders against each other. But Trevor twisted the situation to his advantage. Using the restraining orders as leverage, Trevor began turning the children against their mother, painting her as the aggressor in their fractured relationship. The seeds of mistrust are planted, isolating Alisa further. With the children caught in the crossfire and the system failing her, Alisa's left more vulnerable than ever. But the danger is far from over. Trevor's obsession with control was only growing, and the worst is yet to come. 1 month later, in March of 2017, Trevor concocts an evil plan. He convinces his eldest daughter, Arden, to leave a bedroom window open while she's staying at her mother's house.
So, how did you know when to open up the window?
I don't remember if there was, I believe there was a call, but I don't remember exactly if there was a call or a text.
Is it possible that one of these calls alerted you to the fact that and the defendant had arrived?
It is possible.
If it was a text, would it have been in the group text? If he had let you know he had arrived, that it would have been in the group text?
Most likely.
Okay. And there was no text saying he had arrived, correct?
No, there was not.
So, you stated you opened up what window from your mom's house?
I opened the kids' bedroom window, which is the window on the side of the house.
And was anybody sleeping in there?
No.
And did you go out that window?
I did.
And is there a fence around your mom's house?
There is not.
And do you close the window after you go out the window?
I believe I left it open, but I don't remember for sure.
And where do you go then?
Met up with, we went down to the community center to sit in the Pacifica.
Where was the community center?
It was right down the street. It was pretty much at the end of my mom's street with like one street crossing it.
Why was the defendant's vehicle left there?
I don't remember exactly why.
And when you met up with Lane, did he go with you down to where the defendant's minivan was?
Yes.
And what did you do when you got in the minivan?
We sat and waited.
Was that the plan? That's what was going to happen?
Yes.
In the dead of night, with his daughter's aid, Trevor Summers makes his move. With the restraining order in place, he knows what he's doing is illegal. But for Trevor, this was no longer about following the law. It's about control. A quick search on truthfinder.com reveals the troubling extent of Trevor Summers' financial struggles. The records paint a clear picture: bankruptcy filings, an eviction notice, and traffic violations. These documents highlight a man grappling with mounting instability, a backdrop that casts his later actions in an even more disturbing light. Using Truthfinder, a subscription-based service that provides access to public records, we were able to uncover these details in just a few minutes. By entering his name and location, Truthfinder delivered a comprehensive report that included potential contact information, location history, and more. The evidence of financial turmoil was undeniable, showing a man whose life appeared to be unraveling long before the events that shocked his family and community. This tool, widely used by reporters, investigators, and even everyday individuals, offers a unique ability to dive deep into public records with ease. With its paid subscription, anyone can perform unlimited background checks to uncover real, verifiable information for peace of mind. From investigating a potential neighbor to verifying the identity of someone you've met online, Truthfinder puts the power of public records at your fingertips. If you're watching this episode of Law and Crime Investigates, you can access Truthfinder with an exclusive offer, 50% off your first confidential background report. Visit truthfinder.com/LCinvestigates to learn more and start uncovering the facts today. The link is in the description below.
At the time that you separated in October 2016, were you both sharing custody of the 5 children?
We were.
Drawing your attention specifically to March 10th of 2017, do you remember what day of the week that was?
It was a Friday.
And was that a day that you were going to have your children?
Yes.
And did you have all 5 of your children on that date?
I had 3.
And what 3 children?
Arden.
And what was the plan for that evening?
I was to pick them up at the playground within Trevor's neighborhood. So I went in that neutral spot, the playground. I picked up, and we were going to go back to my house, watch dinner, watch movies, have dinner, and they were going to sleep over.
Okay. Now, how come it did not come that time?
Chose not to come for the visit.
Okay. Was he having some issues with the separation and the divorce between you and the defendant?
He was.
Okay. Was there an injunction at that time as well that prevented the defendant from coming to your home?
Yes.
Was there an injunction that prevented you from going to his home?
Yes.
Now, did you watch movies the night of March 10th of 2017?
We did. We watched Storks.
And that evening, did anything unusual happen?
No.
Do you recall after the movie was over what happened?
I was tired, and I kind of started dozing off on the couch while the movie was going on. And so I was going to go to bed, and it was past their bedtime, and they asked to sleep in my bed with me, and I let them sleep in bed with me. And Arden wanted to stay up, watch movies, and said she was going to just sleep on the couch that night.
Did have their own beds in your home?
Yes.
Was it a separate bedroom?
Yes.
And that night they had asked to sleep in your bed?
Yes.
Did Arden have her own bed at your home?
Arden and I shared a queen-size bed in my bedroom.
Was that the master suite?
Yes.
But that night she chose to sleep on the couch.
Yes.
Do you recall approximately what time you went to sleep?
It was a little before 10 o'clock, 9:45-ish.
Did you take anything to go to sleep or on any medication like that to help you sleep or anything?
No.
At some point, do you wake up?
Yes.
And do you know what time that was?
It was 3 o'clock.
How do you know it was 3 o'clock?
I had a digital clock with large numbers on my end table.
What caused you to wake up?
I was woken suddenly from a deep sleep to water droplets on my face, and when I was trying to get my bearings, I realized there was a dark figure in my bedroom.
Did you have any lights on in your room?
No.
Any light on in the bathroom that's
No.
attached to your bedroom?
No.
What did you do when you saw the dark figure?
I started to scream, "Who's in my room? Who's in my house?" The dark figure went up against the wall, leaning against the wall, and I kept screaming. And then I heard a voice say, "Calm down."
Did you recognize that voice?
I did.
And who did you recognize that voice to belong to?
Trevor Summers.
Were they still in the bed with you at that time?
Yes.
What were they doing when that initial interaction took place?
They were starting to stir, but had not fully woken awake.
What's the next thing that happened?
When he said, "Calm down," and I realized who it was, I started reaching to my end table and throwing objects from my end table at him.
Do you recall what you threw?
I always sleep with a cup of water that has a straw in it, and I grabbed that and threw that. There was a box of tissues. So those are the items that are normally on my end table.
What's the next thing that happened?
He grabbed my feet from the end
And
of...
when you say he, is that the defendant?
Yes, Trevor Summers grabbed my feet by my ankles, the end of the bed, and drug me, my full body off of the bed, pulling all the bedding and everything with me.
Alisa can see her children as the nightmare is unfolding, but she isn't able to speak to them.
Did you make any statement to when you saw him?
No.
When the kids go out the front door, where's the defendant when the kids are walking out the front door?
He was holding me in the farthest corner of that family room, like the last seat of the couch, the furthest from the door. And I would say he was on top of me, but he was really like wrapped around my body, holding me in place.
So you were not able to run out the front door, is
No.
that correct?
No.
Do you know where the children went?
No.
Did you ask the defendant where the children were going?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He told me that his parents came to get the kids and and to take them home.
And what kind of car did Trevor Summers have on this date?
I had no understanding of his car. I'd never seen his car. He told me that he bought a new Chrysler Pacifica.
But you had not seen it to
I
date.
had not seen it.
Okay. After the children, first of all, let me stop. Do you have any idea what time what time frame this is when the children leave? Are you looking at a clock? Do you have access to a clock when you're in that family room area?
There's no clock in the family room.
When the children leave, what happens next?
The same demeanor he had while sitting on the couch, the restraining me, holding my body, was the way that he escorted me back to the master bedroom. He guided me, and I was exhausted now, and he took me into the master bedroom, and that's when I saw the time, approximately between 5:30, 6 o'clock area.
During, from the first time that you saw him, from 3 o'clock until 5:30, 6 o'clock, after you had been trying to get out the front door, and then he guides you to the back, what was your mindset as far as whether or not you were going to be able to try to get out of the house anymore?
I tried as much as I could to get help and to get out the front door, not just for myself, but for my kids. But I realized that he was going to overpower me every time I tried to do anything. So at this point, I've completely exhausted, and I'm just left in that position.
Okay. When he takes you back from the family room, where does he take you to?
He takes me to the master bedroom.
And what happens in there?
This is the first time that he ties me up. He took the scarves and he tied my hands, my
Are these the
wrists.
scarves that you had described earlier that was around his waistband?
Correct.
And what did he do with those scarves?
He tied my wrists, tied my ankles, put a sock in my mouth, and wrapped a scarf around my mouth. He pulled a nylon rope from his pocket, and cocoon wrapped me in this nylon rope.
When you say, was that your body or still your hands?
No, my whole body.
This nylon rope, did you recognize where this came from?
No, I'd never seen it before.
Okay, so it was not a particular item from your home, is that correct?
No.
Did he tie you up with anything else this initial time?
Yes, once I was tied there, lying on the bed, he left and came back in with my Christmas lights from my garage.
When he had left to go get these Christmas lights, were you able to get free?
I was working my way out. I was able to kind of squirm and push my feet kind of up on those ropes that were around me and was able to kind of loosen things up. And then when he came back in with the Christmas lights, he tied those Christmas lights to my bed frame. It was like a metal bed rail, and he crisscrossed them over me, securing me down to the bed.
Was there any getting out of it at that point?
No.
Alisa has no idea that her life is on the brink of a harrowing nightmare.
He told me that it's getting late. He's going to be leaving for the boat soon. And I thought, okay, I've made it through this day. It's almost over. And he told me that once he is out into international water, that my best friend Jennifer would be contacted to come to my home and untie me. But he had to tie me up to make sure that he could get out into international water.
Okay. And so where does he tie you up?
He ties me, and I begged him. I said, please don't hog-tie me. It was so painful. Please don't. And he put, similar to the first tying up, he laid me on my back. He had tied me more my wrists, my ankles, but then he had gotten a sheet, a pink sheet, and he wrapped the sheet around me as a cocoon and then wrapped around that. And then...
Do you know where this pink sheet came from?
It was in the hall closet right outside the master bedroom. There was a hall closet.
Was there any getting out of that?
No, this one was even more cocooning and tight than the first time.
And so what did he expect you to do once he left for the boat and you were tied up?
He turned on the Netflix series Crown and said, you'll enjoy this show, just watch this to entertain you until Jennifer comes and unties you.
So does he then leave and go get on the boat?
He left. And I
when you say he left the room or he left the home?
I thought he had left the home.
Okay. So what do you do?
So I wanted to make sure that he was really gone. I laid and watched the show calmly because I didn't want him come back in and see I'm half out of, this. And then after probably 30 or 40 minutes, it was so quiet and I was sure he had left. I started to squirm. I started to try to wiggle my way out. And that's when then my bedroom door opened. And I saw the look on Mr. Summers' face and realized he was there to kill me.
Can you describe that look?
It was the most evil, frightening look that I'd ever seen. He pushed down the pillow on my face, and I'm just moving my head, squirming, trying to get air. And he climbed on top of me with his full body weight, first his upper body, full force on the pillow on my face, and then he actually scooted up his lower body and straddled up on my upper chest area to put even more pressure down on my face.
And were you still tied up at this time?
Yes.
And did he say anything when he came in with the pillow or when he was pushing it down on you?
No.
Were you able to say anything?
No.
Were you able to gasp for air or find any way to take a breath?
I tried, and sometimes I would get a little bit, but I'd be like, this is my last breath, and this is it.
With a chilling mix of threats and intimidation, Trevor forces Alisa into the car, leaving her no choice but to comply as fear grips her every move.
He said that we were going to go to his home to get his suitcase and say goodbye to the kids, and he grabbed my car keys from the hook and put the suitcase right out front of the front door and walked me to the car, put me into the car, pulled the seatbelt across me, buckled me, got the suitcase, put it into my car, and then he got in the driver's seat of my car.
Did you at any time tell him that he could utilize your car?
No.
Did you give him permission to borrow your car?
No.
Is he driving the vehicle?
Yes.
And where does he drive to?
He drives down Lithia Pinecrest, and to go to his home, normally we would turn onto Lithia Pinecrest and then make a quick right onto Bell Shoals, and he didn't make that quick right. He continues down Lithia Pinecrest.
Do you know why he was taking a different route?
No.
Did you ask him why?
Yes.
And what did he tell you?
He said that he had to make a stop first.
Did he tell you where he needed to make this stop?
No.
Where ultimately is this stop?
He pulled into the Walgreens.
Randall Query, an employee at Walgreens, notices Alisa trying to escape.
And what observations did you make that ultimately led you to call law enforcement?
I'd seen and heard a woman running and screaming in the parking lot.
Did you make any observations of her, what she was wearing, what she looked like?
Yes.
What did you see?
I'd seen she initially had like a blanket over her shoulders, and she was running away. The blanket fell off, and I saw her hands were bound behind her back somehow.
Could you see how her hands were bound behind her back?
No.
Did you make any other observation of her that you recall?
Not that I recall.
Was she running, can you tell me, describe for me where you were standing outside your Walgreens?
I was just outside the front door to the left, I believe.
And was this female running towards you or away from you?
Away from me.
Did you see where she had come from?
I did not.
Could you make out what she was yelling?
Yes.
And what did she say?
I believe it was something to the effect of, like, help, 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 call the police.
Hold on, wait, I'm sorry. Hold
Yep,
on
sorry.
for a second. Overruled.
And Mr. Crosby, you're now allowed to answer that question. What was that female yelling? And
Something to the effect of help, 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 call the police.
what did you observe? What did you observe next?
A man was chasing after her.
Do you recall anything about this man? What he was wearing, what he looked like?
Yes.
And what do you recall?
I gave a description of the events to the police at the time. I don't recall what he was wearing at the moment.
And did that individual run towards this female?
Yes.
Did you see where he came from?
No.
And did this male that you saw, what did he do when he was running towards the female?
He caught up to her and grabbed her, kind of wrestled her back to the ground.
I'm sorry, to where?
To the ground.
Okay. Did they fall down on the ground?
I don't recall.
And what happened next?
He then took the woman and brought her back to a vehicle.
Near the Walgreens and Fish Hawk, And some chick just ran out of the dude's car. Looked like her hands were tied. She ran out of the car, she couldn't help me. He just grabbed her and put her back in the car.
What's the address?
It's Walgreens and Fish Hawk. I don't know the address. She dropped a shirt. If you can just walk it back and pick it up.
No, I wouldn't. I would touch it though.
Don't touch it. I'll try to keep anyone else from touching it if you can get someone to get here.
Yeah, I get up. I get up on the way, so.
Close the corner of Fish Hawk and Fish Hawk Crossing. He turned into Fish Hawk Ranch somewhere.
Fish Hawk Ranch, okay. Did you notice any weapons at all on him at all or anything?
I didn't, but I didn't approach him in case there was.
Okay. Alright, so I got the call in, I got that fish on the way out, and they'll be on the way out. They shoot it short, okay?
Do you have any kind of ETA?
This is one that's at Belfast and Fish Hawk, so it's just not too far.
Okay.
I have another unit on the way out of there for another call on the same area, so.
Okay. The shirt blanket, let me see what the fuck it is, don't touch it. It's just a blanket. That's laying here in the middle of the road. Do you want me to try to keep anyone from getting to it, or do you want me to collect it into a bag without touching it?
I say for now, just just leave it there and kind of just, make sure no one messes with it until my deputies get there, so.
Okay. I'll hang out front here, thanks.
I see you welcome.
Bye.
Hearing Alisa recount her story in her own words to the court is nothing short of chilling.
And what's the next thing that happened?
He came running through the parking lot, grabbed me, full force around my body, picked me up and got me back to the car. And as he's trying to push me into the car, I'm arching my back and pushing up on the running boards and screaming and trying to force for him not to push me into the car. Once he pushed me into the car and closed the door, it took so much effort to be able to lean forward and get back out the door that he was able to run around and get into the driver's seat and take off.
And did you see any employee outside of the Walgreens, either when you had exited the car or the defendant was putting you back in the car?
I did.
After forcing Alisa into the car, Trevor's plan to keep her detained is far from over. What follows is a disorienting journey to various locations, each stop designed to prolong her captivity and maintain his control.
What happened? What's the next thing that happened after he gets you back in the car and the defendant gets in the driver's seat?
He took us back through the Fish Hawk neighborhood and came out through another entrance of the neighborhood and came out onto the main road. While he is driving, I'm able to do the same maneuver again and get the door, and the door swings open as he's turning left into where there was a Catholic church, and the door had swung open. And at this point he stops, ties me to the seat, puts the seatbelt on me because I didn't have the seatbelt on when he took off of the Walgreens. He didn't rebuckle me. Put the seatbelt back on me, tied me to the chair, and closed the door. And then he took off through all back roads, and then we ended up in the middle of nowhere.
At a McDonald's drive-thru, Trevor maintains a facade of normalcy. But for Alisa, the ordinary setting only heightened the surreal terror of her situation. At a Citgo gas station, Trevor takes a moment to refuel, all the while keeping Alisa under his watchful eye. For her, every stop is a fleeting moment of hope for escape, crushed by his relentless control. In a chilling display of manipulation, Trevor convinces Alisa that they need to write letters to their children. He spins a narrative about his intentions, using her fear and desperation to coerce her to comply.
Publishing S1, surrender of parental rights. I, Trevor Summers, hereby surrender all my parental rights to Alisa Summers on the 13th day of March 2017 due to my absence and inability to further our children for a long, to further care children for a long-term duration, which is to be in excess of 15 years. The only person who can restore my parental rights by authority shall be Alisa Summers, and at her permission. By my hand signature below, I have surrendered all parental rights to my children, Arden. By the signature, date 3/13/17. Publishing S2, which was titled at the top, Confession. On March 11th, I convinced my oldest daughter to let me in Alisa's house to talk to her one last time, to try to convince Alisa to come home. Using force, I fought with Alisa and tied her up in her bed until she agreed to leave with me. She got into her car with me, and we drove for hours until we found a secluded place where we sat and talked all day Saturday and Sunday. She tried to escape once from her ties, and I cut her wrist once. I wanted her to leave town with me, which she originally agreed to, but changed her mind. With the signature.
Yes, ma'am.
Were these letters, did you request that they be evaluated for possible prints?
Yes, I did.
And was that done?
Yes, I was.
Publishing State S3. Dear Arden, you are wonderful children of God. You will always have the most special place in our hearts. You deserve more than we could give you, and we leave you to protect you from us. We should have never went down this road of divorce that tore our family apart and, more importantly, hurt you in the process. So we have ended it for your sake. We have good people in your lives that will help you and raise you to grow up better than we could have done. We gave you a good foundation and hope you remember all the good memories and right things we taught you. Try to forget the past few months because we said we did a lot of things we regret. Please forgive us and know that we have sacrificed ourselves to give you a better life. Growing up strong in the Lord, and pray to Him for your guidance and understanding. Love others always and try your best in all you do. Remember, nothing we have done or said is any of your fault. It is our faults, our mistakes, that made us undeserving parents. We wish you the best in everything you do, and we will be watching you from heaven. Take care of each other and know you are precious to God. Love you, Dad and Mom, Trevor and Alisa. And ultimately, were there prints identified to the defendant that matched his fingerprints on this specific letter to the children, as well as his surrender of parental rights?
Yes.
Trevor Summers is apprehended by police on March 12, 2017, following a 55-hour ordeal during which he kidnaps and assaults his estranged wife, Alisa.
At the location where you were strangled, is that located within Hillsborough County, Florida?
Yes.
So he drives approximately 3 blocks. You said he peeled out of there. Is he driving quickly to this house with stilts?
Yes.
Did you know this person that lived there?
No.
Did he tell you why he was going to this house?
He told me that was the safe house.
Okay. And so what happens when he arrives at this safe house? Are you still in the captain's chair?
I'm tied to the captain's chair.
And what happens next?
He pulls underneath the house, and he moves from the driver's seat over to the passenger seat. So he's sitting catty corner to me, looking back right at me. And he says, "There's an unmarked police car right there." And I didn't believe him. At this point,
Could you see the vehicle that he's
I did. It looked like an older Chevy Malibu. And so I didn't believe him. And he began slitting his throat and saying, "This is what love is. I'm laying my life down for you. You don't deserve this."
What did you do when he was doing that?
I was screaming. It was very traumatic, and the blood and the whole thing was traumatic.
What did he use to cut his neck?
The razor blade.
Was that the same razor blade that was used on your wrist?
Yes.
What's the next thing that, did you tell him to stop doing that, or were you encouraging him to
No,
slit his throat?
I said stop. Please stop. Please.
What's the next thing that happened?
With his neck slit and open, he leaned backwards in the seat with a razor blade at me, and he said, "Let me cut those ropes off of you." And I took, because it was just looped on my injured arm, it wasn't tied to it, I was able to pull my arm out of the loop, and I had my hands like this, and I said, "Look, I'm out, you don't have to cut the ropes off." And at this point, law enforcement surrounded the vehicle, my door opened, I was grabbed and taken out.
Trevor is finally captured, and Alisa is rescued by authorities. It's not until 5 years later, in August 2022, that the horrific details about Alisa's 55-hour abduction are revealed.
Between March 11th of 2017 and March 13th of 2017, Alisa Summers thought she was living out the last few days of her life. She believed that the defendant, Trevor Summers, was going to kill her.
In a bizarre turn of events, Trevor chooses to represent himself in court, going so far as to personally question Alisa when she's on the stand.
Do you know how long I was at your house until you were woken?
I woke up at 3 a.m.
You woke up at 3 a.m. And you said that you were woken by water droplets?
Yes.
Okay. So that was the first moment you were woken up by water droplets?
Yes.
Okay. And you said it was dark in your room?
Yes.
How dark was it?
The only light was coming from my digital clock. Very dark.
Was that enough light to see a figure standing in a certain position in your room?
Yes.
And when you say that you were startled awake, do you know? I'm sorry. Let me change that. You said then that your feet were grabbed.
Yes.
Is it one ankle or two ankles?
I don't recall.
Did you recall me saying anything about calm down, it's just me?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall if you threw any other items?
No.
Do you recall how those items got neatly placed back on a table in a vanity?
No.
5 years after the harrowing ordeal, a now 20-year-old Arden delivers her victim impact statement about her father's heinous crimes.
I was 14 when he ultimately betrayed me. The man I thought could do no wrong and that I looked up to had broken something that will never be fixed or forgotten. Here I am today, still dealing with the consequences of your actions. For 5.5 years, I have struggled with what happened to my family, especially for the part I took in it. On the night of March 11, 2017, I let you into my mom's house through a bedroom window. I will forever live with the guilt of what you did, even though I know that I could not have known what was going to happen. I trusted you in what you said. You told me you needed to speak to her and that it wouldn't be long. But little did I know I would be assisting in putting my mom through hours, even days, of hell. An anger toward myself had built up inside. How could I not see how strange it was to let you in the window? Why didn't I question it? Even during that time when I waited down the street in your car, I thought it was odd how long it took you to wake my mom up. I have the burning question of why couldn't I do more? But now I realize the answer to that question, because I was a child who trusted her parents, and a child who trusted her father. The guilt has affected me for 5 years, eating away at my soul. Therapy and medication was not enough to tame the burning flame inside me. I was led to destructive behaviors, none of which I am proud of. The physical pain I inflicted upon myself was nothing compared to the pain of the guilt I felt and the weight I carried on my young shoulders. While no one else blamed me for what I did, for what happened, I did. I fought against my own demons for over 5 years, all because of the actions of one man. I am 20 now, and while I have grown and overcome most of my demons, I still crave the closure I've been waiting for. the closure that 14-year-old needs. Sorry.
All right.
I stand here today and share my story, one that I have been waiting to tell for all too long, one that has burned into the heart of my 14-year-old self. I was a child when I let you into my mom's house. I was a child when you told me to make an almost 30-minute drive with 3 other children in the car to your house. I was a child when you broke all my trust, my hopes, and my dreams. Even after my parents were found, my siblings and I were ripped from the only homes we knew, that of my parents. We were put with your parents and then moved to a family friend's home, neither of which were stable. This led to a worsening decline in my mental health. I was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and PTSD. I was put on antidepressants, but it didn't help my constant PTSD episodes and sleepless nights. It felt as if everything around me was a trigger. I couldn't even go to school without having an episode of some kind most days. This continued until I was reunited with my mom in December of 2017. Only then did my long journey of healing begin. But even as I healed, the trial loomed over me. While I was anxious for the end and the closure I needed, I knew I had to face you one more time. And finally, that day came. I stand here today, stronger than I was before, ready for this sickening chapter to end. After years of continuances and waiting for closure, I am ready. Ready for the end and for the peace of mind. I may no longer be a child, but I can allow my inner child to heal from the damage her father had caused. I still have resentment, but it is no longer towards myself, only towards the man I thought was my father, Trevor Summers.
When the verdict was read, it was more than just a legal decision. It was a validation of Alisa's courage and a message that justice would not be denied.
Mr. Summers, I cannot and will not hold against you your decision to represent yourself. However, I do believe that the timing of your decision was born of pure evil, which is not surprising given that the circumstances of this case, the testimony and evidence that I heard, clearly make you a monster in every stretch of the imagination. And as a result, first, I apologize to the victims for not being able to undo the harm, the pain that this defendant has caused you. To Arden, you should not feel guilty for anything that you did in this case. I assure you of that. I only hope that the sentence that I give today gives some sense of peace in knowing that Mr. Trevor Summers will spend the rest of his life in Florida State Prison. As to counts 1, 2, and 3, I sentence him to life in prison to run concurrent with each other. As to counts 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, I sentence him to 32.1125 years on each and every one of those counts to run consecutively.
The scars of that night would never fully fade, but they became a testament to her resilience. Trevor Summers' actions serve as a grim reminder of how far domestic violence can escalate. But Alisa's story is a beacon of hope, showing that escape and justice are possible.